Once devastated by war, Vietnam transformed remarkably. How did this nation become a global success story? It's truly a compelling tale of resilience. Vietnam embraced capitalism, a powerful tool for growth. This pivotal decision marked a turning point, paving the way for significant progress and development. This strategic shift propelled Vietnam's rise, establishing it as a significant player globally. Its ascent truly reflects its remarkable adaptability. Now, Vietnam balances between rival and former enemy. This delicate situation requires careful diplomacy to maintain stability and protect its interests. Discover the story in a special ATM documentary. Watch now to understand Vietnam's journey, challenges, and future prospects. Don't miss out on this.
They report the chaos. We reveal the agenda.
Good evening and welcome to ATM. Tonight, we delve into an extraordinary transformation. Look at this image, a nation engulfed in flames, a stark symbol of the 20th century's most brutal conflicts, a landscape scarred by war and devastation. Now, shift your gaze to this, a dynamic, youthful nation, vibrant and full of energy, a burgeoning powerhouse of global manufacturing, actively courted by the world's superpowers for its economic potential and strategic importance. These two profoundly different images are, in fact, of the very same place, Vietnam. How did this country, once synonymous with relentless war and utter destruction, manage to rise from complete annihilation to become one of the world's most resilient, dynamic, and sought-after international partners? This is not merely a story of recovery from adversity. It is a profound masterclass in survival, a testament to the indomitable spirit of a nation that refused to be defined by its past. To truly comprehend Vietnam's remarkable rise, you must first understand the immense depths from which it emerged. For nearly a century, this land knew almost nothing but continuous, brutal conflict, a cycle of struggle that shaped its very identity. First, it endured a brutal colonization by the French, a period marked by exploitation and resistance. This was followed by a devastating war with the United States, a conflict that, while ultimately unifying the country, left it utterly destroyed, its infrastructure shattered, and its people deeply traumatized. The statistics from this period are truly staggering and paint a grim picture. An estimated 3 million Vietnamese lives were tragically lost. Furthermore, more bombs were dropped on this small nation than were dropped by all sides combined in the entirety of World War II, leaving an indelible mark on the landscape and its people. By 1975, the war had finally concluded. However, the country was left in ruins, an international pariah, isolated from the Western world, and facing a future shrouded in profound uncertainty and immense challenges. The victorious North then imposed its hardline, centrally planned communist economic model on the entire country. Private enterprise was completely abolished, and farms were forcibly collectivized, fundamentally altering the economic and social fabric of the nation. The result of these policies was an unmitigated catastrophe. Rice production, in a land that had historically been a fertile breadbasket, plummeted dramatically. The nation, once self-sufficient, was tragically struck by widespread famine, leading to immense suffering and loss of life. By the mid-1980s, the economic situation had spiraled completely out of control. Inflation had skyrocketed to an astonishing rate of over 700%, rendering the national currency almost worthless and plunging the population into deeper poverty. To make matters even worse, the nation was bled dry by a costly invasion of Cambodia, aimed at overthrowing the Khmer Rouge regime, and a subsequent, brutal border war with China, further depleting its already scarce resources and exacerbating its economic woes. 10 years after what was hailed as a great victory, Vietnam was far from a rising power. Instead, it was a failed state, teetering precariously on the brink of total economic and social collapse, a shadow of its former self. By 1986, the leadership in Hanoi was confronted with an agonizing and stark choice: They could either stubbornly cling to a failed ideology that was actively starving their nation, or they could make a radical, terrifying pivot towards an entirely new economic direction. They faced the immense challenge of having to betray the very principles and ideals they had fought and died for, the core tenets of their revolution, all in a desperate bid to save the country they had so fiercely won and liberated. The old guard, steeped in rigid ideology, was slowly fading, and a new generation of pragmatic reformers began to emerge. They recognized that the only viable path forward, the only way to rescue their nation, was to embrace their former enemy's most potent weapon, the free market. In 1986, the Communist Party of Vietnam made a monumental decision that would irrevocably change the course of its history and reshape its future. They officially called this transformative policy Đổi Mới, which translates to renovation, signaling a profound shift in national direction. In the next part of our series, we will explore in detail how this desperate and audacious gamble, this radical shift in economic policy, unleashed one of the greatest and most rapid economic transformations the world has ever witnessed, propelling Vietnam onto the global stage. We left Vietnam on the brink of collapse, a nation struggling under a centrally planned economy, about to make a desperate gamble for its future. This was a pivotal moment in its history. That gamble was Đổi Mới, meaning renovation or innovation. This wasn't just a policy change. It was a profound ideological surrender, a complete shift from its previous economic model. It was a communist government admitting that capitalism, specifically market forces and private ownership, in the right dose, was the only cure for its failing system, which had mirrored the Soviet model for decades. This is the story of how the capitalist communists were born, marking a new era for Vietnam's economic and political landscape. The reforms were radical and immediate, fundamentally reshaping the nation's economy. The state gave land back to family farmers, allowing them to manage production and retain surplus beyond quotas, which significantly incentivized output. It encouraged small private businesses and street vendors, fostering a new entrepreneurial spirit. Most importantly, it threw open the doors to foreign investment, signaling a major shift towards global integration. The result was explosive and transformative. Agricultural production skyrocketed, particularly in rice. Within a few short years, Vietnam went from a nation facing widespread famine to becoming the world's second-largest rice exporter, a truly remarkable achievement. Foreign capital poured in, seeking a stable, low-cost manufacturing base, drawn by the new economic policies. The entrepreneurial spirit of the Vietnamese people, which had been suppressed for a decade under the old system, was finally unleashed, driving rapid economic growth. As China's labor costs began to rise significantly in the 2010s, global corporations started actively looking for an alternative manufacturing hub. Vietnam was perfectly positioned to fill this void, thanks to its earlier reforms and strategic development. It brilliantly marketed itself as China Plus One, a safe, reliable second option for global supply chains. Tech giants led the charge, recognizing Vietnam's potential as a new manufacturing powerhouse. Samsung, for example, now produces roughly 50% of its global smartphone supply in Vietnam, a testament to the country's manufacturing capabilities. Companies like Nike, Adidas, and Intel followed suit, investing billions into state-of-the-art factories and production lines across the nation. Vietnam rapidly became a linchpin of the global supply chain, actively joining major trade pacts like the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership and signing extensive free trade agreements with the European Union, further solidifying its international economic ties. Its exports soared dramatically, and its economy has seen some of the highest and most consistent growth rates in the world, averaging over 6% per year for 2 decades, a remarkable period of sustained prosperity and development. But perhaps the most stunning and unexpected part of this transformation was the profound reconciliation with its former archenemy, the United States, a relationship once marked by deep conflict and division. In 1995, just 20 years after the fall of Saigon, the two nations formally normalized relations, a monumental step towards healing past wounds. This historic move was swiftly followed by a landmark trade deal, opening new avenues for economic cooperation and mutual benefit. American investment subsequently flooded into Vietnam, recognizing its burgeoning market and strategic importance. Presidents, from Bill Clinton to Barack Obama to Donald Trump, have all visited Hanoi, each visit deepening the partnership and strengthening diplomatic ties between the two nations. On the surface, this burgeoning relationship appeared to be primarily about business and economic opportunity. However, beneath the surface, this impossible friendship was being forged by a shared fear and a common geopolitical threat, pushing these two former enemies into one of the most unlikely and strategically vital partnerships of the 21st century. In the next part of our documentary, we will delve deeper into Vietnam's perilous geopolitical tightrope walk, exploring how it navigates complex international relations and balances its strategic interests in a rapidly changing world. Vietnam's economic miracle is a marvel, but it has been achieved in the shadow of a giant. To its north lies China, its largest trading partner, a fellow communist state, but also its most formidable historical rival and a growing geopolitical threat. This has forced Vietnam into the most dangerous and delicate balancing act in Asia. For 2,000 years, Vietnam has lived next to, and often fought against, China. Today, the primary flashpoint is the South China Sea. Beijing claims nearly the entire waterway as its own, a claim that directly conflicts with Vietnam's. This is not a theoretical dispute. Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels constantly harass Vietnamese fishing boats and oil exploration rigs in Vietnamese waters. It is a daily campaign of gray zone aggression designed to assert dominance without triggering an all-out war. For Vietnam, this is a fight for its sovereignty and its resources. This constant pressure from China has pushed Vietnam into the arms of an unlikely partner, the United States. In 2023, the two nations upgraded their relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership, Washington's highest diplomatic level, placing Vietnam on par with key U.S. allies. The U.S. has lifted its decades-old arms embargo, and joint naval exercises are becoming more frequent. But this is not a formal alliance. Vietnam is a master of what it calls bamboo diplomacy, rooted in its own national interest, but flexible enough to bend with the prevailing winds without breaking. It builds security ties with the US and other powers like India, Japan, and Australia to hedge against China, while simultaneously maintaining a robust economic and party-to-party relationship with Beijing. It is a strategy of being friends with everyone to avoid being a vassal to anyone. Vietnam's other key strategy is multilateralism. It has become one of the most influential and proactive leaders within ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. While some ASEAN members are hesitant to provoke China, Vietnam consistently pushes for a stronger, unified stance on the South China Sea, advocating for a legally binding code of conduct. By embedding itself in a network of partnerships, Vietnam makes itself a much harder target to bully. But as the US-China rivalry intensifies, the space for this delicate balancing act is shrinking. In our final part, we will explore the internal price of Vietnam's rapid rise and the ultimate question of whether this resilient dragon can survive being caught between two warring titans. We have witnessed Vietnam's astonishing journey from the ashes of war to a global economic player, mastering a perilous geopolitical balancing act. Since the Doi Moi reforms in 1986, Vietnam has transformed from one of the world's poorest nations to a middle-income economy, achieving sustained high economic growth rates, often around 5% annual per capita real GNI growth from 1995 to 2019, outpacing many advanced economies. But this rapid success has come at a cost, creating deep internal tensions and new vulnerabilities. The very speed of its development has brought with it significant challenges, from environmental degradation to social inequalities, which now threaten the stability of its impressive economic gains. This is the dragon's dilemma. It is the complex challenge of balancing continued economic growth with the growing demands of its people and the increasing pressures of a globalized, yet fracturing world. The unspoken deal in Vietnam is simple. The Communist Party delivers ever-increasing economic prosperity, and in return, the people accept its absolute political control. This social contract has been the bedrock of Vietnam's stability and growth for decades, fostering an environment where economic progress is prioritized above all else. But this social contract is coming under strain. A new generation of young, globally connected Vietnamese, raised on the internet, are beginning to demand more than just economic growth. They are increasingly aware of global standards and expectations, leading to a shift in their priorities beyond mere material prosperity. They are demanding greater personal freedoms and a cleaner environment. The rapid industrialization has led to significant environmental consequences, and the younger generation, connected to global movements, is now vocal about the need for sustainable development and greater individual liberties. The government has responded with a mix of targeted crackdowns on online dissent and a renewed push for nationalist ideology. This approach aims to maintain control while attempting to channel public sentiment towards national unity and away from critical internal issues, often through the use of a digital wall, sometimes referred to as the bamboo firewall, to block certain websites and ideas. The great challenge for the party is whether it can manage the aspirations of a middle class that it created, a generation that is no longer content with just a full rice bowl. This burgeoning middle class, a direct result of the party's economic policies, now seeks a more comprehensive quality of life, including better governance and a voice in their future. Vietnam's very success has created a new vulnerability. Its role as the China Plus One manufacturing kingpin has made its economy dangerously dependent on global trade and foreign investment. This strategy, while boosting exports and attracting foreign capital, has also tied its economic fate closely to external market fluctuations and geopolitical shifts. Its infrastructure, ports, roads, and power grids is now straining to keep up with the massive influx of new factories. Despite significant investments, with total infrastructure accounting for over 10% of GDP in the past decade, bottlenecks persist, leading to issues like congested container ports and frequent power outages, hindering further industrial expansion. A recession in the US or Europe, or a major disruption in the global supply chain, would now hit Vietnam harder than almost any other nation. Its export-driven economy, heavily reliant on these markets, is particularly susceptible to external economic shocks, making it vulnerable to global downturns and trade tensions. Its economic miracle is built on a globalized world that is now fracturing. The rise of protectionism, trade wars, and geopolitical rivalries threaten the very foundation of the open global trading system that fueled Vietnam's growth, potentially leading to a much steeper decline in its own economic graph during global downturns. So, what is the story of Vietnam? It is a story of almost unbelievable resilience. A nation that endured a century of unimaginable violence and poverty, only to emerge as one of the world's great success stories, transforming from war-torn landscapes and failed collective farms to a vibrant market economy with the Đổi Mới reforms. It is a masterclass in pragmatism, a testament to a people's unbreakable spirit. This pragmatism has allowed Vietnam to navigate complex geopolitical waters, including tense naval standoffs in the South China Sea, while simultaneously fostering a dynamic and modern industrial base. The challenges it faces, internal social pressures, and the immense geopolitical strain of being caught between two titans are greater than ever. From growing inequality and environmental degradation to the delicate balancing act between major global powers, Vietnam's path forward is fraught with complexities, even amidst the vibrant, youthful energy of its cities today. But to bet against Vietnam is to bet against history. This is a nation that has perfected the art of survival, consistently overcoming adversity through adaptability and an unwavering national resolve. Its commitment to achieving sustainable development goals and its long-term vision to become a high middle-income economy by 2030 and a developed country by 2045 underscore this determination. The resilient dragon may bend with the storm, but it has proven time and time again that it will not be broken. Its history is a powerful narrative of enduring strength and an unyielding spirit in the face of immense challenges. Thank you for joining me on ATM.